Hello everyone, and welcome to One Pittsfield with Mayor Marchetti. Later in the program, I will be joined by Jim Clark, who serves as our city's Director of Veteran Services and also did a stint as the Council on Aging Director. But first, I have several updates to share with you. So first, on the community events and meeting stuff, I visited with many young students to celebrate Read Across America Day this past week. I joined the Williams Elementary School 4th grade class with Mr. Dillon and 18 Degrees, while my staff joined Conte Community School in the YMCA. So we were busy reading to kids to celebrate Read Across America Day last week. We had another monthly economic development team meeting, continuing to focus on the new businesses that we're attempting to relocate or bring to Pittsfield. We had one of two downtown business meetings, and those meetings are something I started at the beginning of the campaign, where on a quarterly basis, we have one morning meeting and one evening meeting with the downtown merchants and stakeholders to be checking in to see how things are going and where we can make improvements. Some members of the team and I took a road trip to Worcester on an invitation by Secretary Augustus to visit Polar Park, their baseball stadium that offers many events both during and after the baseball season. And so we were there talking to them about how they came about building their park, and there are many similarities and many differences between Pittsfield and Worcester in terms of their ball stadium. For acknowledgements, I'd like to acknowledge that Shelley's Kitchen is celebrating their 2nd anniversary. A new business is opening in downtown Pittsfield at 644 North Street called Precision Browse, and they are celebrating their grand opening on March 19th at 2 p.m. Our very own Hot Plate Brewing Company was recently recognized as one of the top 3 new breweries in the United States, according to a USA Today survey. And I also want to give some acknowledgments to some women who were honored at the International Women's Day celebration hosted by Zonta. This event usually recognizes outstanding women for their service to community. This year's recipients included Tony Buckley, Erica Barreto, Lindsay Cornwell, Kate DeWolf, Sharon Fraser McLean, and Valerie Williams. As a reminder, if your business or organization is celebrating a milestone or a special event, please send an email to the mayor's office at mayorsoffice@cityofpittsfield.org with the details, and we will recognize you as part of this ongoing program. For the council meeting coming up tomorrow night, March 11th, we have several items that we have brought forward. We have 2 reappointments to boards and commissions. First is Jeffrey Leppo to the Board of Health, and second is Andrew Hochberg to the Berkshire County Regional Housing Authority Board. We have 4 grants that we're bringing forward at this meeting, and the first is $150,000 from the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities for their Community Planning Grant Program. This funding will be used to update the city's 2009 Master Plan, Planning to Thrive. $25,000 from the Massachusetts Interlocal Insurance Association for the Pittsfield Police Department. $32,000 from the Executive Office of Public Safety and Security, Office of Grants and Research for their Critical Incident Stress Management Grant Program. And the last is a $1,300 grant for Med Project Drug Stewardship Grant Program for the Pittsfield Police Department for the collection and disposal of unwanted medications. We'll also have an ARPA presentation, another quarterly update that will be provided by our special projects team. All funds have been obligated. $28,113,388 of the $40.6 million has been expended as of December 31st, 2024. All the monies have been appropriated, so we are well on target to meet all of the ARPA guidelines. There's an order transferring and appropriating funds in the amount of $19,000 between different line items within Pittsfield Police Department's fiscal year 25 budget, and also an order transferring and appropriating funds in the amount of $125,000 between line items within Pittsfield's Fire Department fiscal year 25 budget. And this is going to be a new process for the city of Pittsfield. For years, the city council voted on a budget that was a single line item budget for each department. We learned in the transition of mayors that there was a new legal way of doing budgets, and so we adopted that system. So now each department puts in 2 line items, or maybe 3 line items, depending upon the department. One is for personnel, one is for non-personnel, and then one is for capital. Previous to this, the mayor could transfer money from any department's budget that they wanted to. Under the new system, the mayor can transfer money or approve transfers of money for departments from personnel to personnel, or non-personnel to non-personnel, but if they switch categories, it requires council approval. We're also sending an ordinance amending the city code for the city of Pittsfield on Animal Control Commission to make changes in 2 fronts. One, to change their membership requirements. So our code is requiring that the commission have a veterinarian, and we have been having difficulty over the last year trying to find a veterinarian. So we're removing that from the code because that was a Pittsfield-based decision, not a state-based decision. We're also going to reduce the membership from 7 down to 5. And as part of this, we are creating a hearings commission authority that will have the responsibility of having the hearings about vicious dogs or other items like that. Chief Dolly will also be present, providing several life-saving awards. First to Mason Papirio for administrating Narcan and performing CPR during a call for an unresponsive party on February 22nd, 2025. Officer Papirio continued CPR until a pulse return and until the Pittsfield Fire Department and County Ambulance arrived on the scene. Officer Papirio, Logan Finn, and Robert Horn. Also on February 13th, Officer Papirio was on patrol when he noticed flames coming from a multifamily building. Officers went door to door, waking up the residents to safely evacuate all persons and animals inside, preventing any loss of life. So Chief Dolly will be there for that. Also, since this will be airing on Monday night, just want to give a preview to the Finance Committee meeting that will be taking place. We are before the City Council looking for a tax increment financing package for Unistress or particular industries. They are doing a 15,000 square foot addition to their current building, which means that when they're done with that, they are looking to add 50 new jobs. I'm mentioning this because a lot of times when we talk about a TIF or a tax increment financing package, you see a lot of chatter about how come we're giving away this door to local businesses. And I want to be clear that a TIF provides tax breaks on the new assessment of the property. So the assessment freezes at the current assessment, and we phase in the new evaluation. So if the building is worth $1 million today and $2 million tomorrow, year 1, they'll still pay taxes on $1 million. On year 2, they'll pay taxes on $1.1 million. On year 2, $1.2 million. And at then 10 years, they'd be paying the taxes on the $2 million. So we're not really giving stuff up, because if they didn't make the improvements, we wouldn't be receiving the additional tax revenues. And sometimes it is helpful for the city to be involved with a TIF, because that also impacts what the state does. And as many of you know, the state Mass Development was involved in helping to fund this project. And so the state usually likes to see that the city is invested in supporting a project before they move forward. So I wanted to kind of throw that in there, because I know a lot of people hear the word TIF and the chatter begins, and it's a really, really bad thing. I look back at when we gave a TIF to Interprint. Interprint was looking at doing an expansion and trying to decide whether they were going to keep the company in Pittsfield or move to Georgia. And so the TIF with the city of Pittsfield and some of the other state assistants was what was needed to keep them here. And when we talk about trying to recruit new businesses, we're competing with other communities in other states across the nation. And most of the time, the one with the best offer is the one that gets to relocate the company. And so I think it's important that folks understand that we're out there every single day looking to bring companies to Pittsfield, but it's not going to work. Knock, knock, knock. Hello, I'm Peter Marchetti. I'm the mayor of the city of Pittsfield. Will you please come to Pittsfield? There needs to be a financial offer to that company, because there are other financial officers coming from other communities. So that's the update of where we are so far. And so now I want to welcome Jim Clark. He is now currently just our Veteran Service Agent, the Director of Veteran Services. But prior to that, a long time ago, it seems. He was the director of Veteran Services, decided that, geez, I'd rather be the director of the Senior Center, and spent quite a few years there as the director of the Senior Center. Did both for a period of time, a couple times.
Right.
And now back to Veteran Services. So, Jim, as I've been trying to introduce department heads to the community, I start out by saying, why don't you give the community a little bit about your background, your journey. How did you become Veterans Agent for the City of Pittsfield?
I'll be glad to answer. So I'm a Pittsfield kid. I was born and raised in the area, went through Pittsfield Public Schools, graduated from Taconic High School, went into the military 12 days after high school, graduated from the U.S. Military Academy at West Point, thankfully from Congressman Conti's appointment to the Military Academy back in the 80s. From there, I graduated as an armor officer, went to armor school, went to flight school, went different places all over the world, mostly in the Middle East and Southwest Asia, also Africa, Europe, a lot of places in the U.S. Retired in 2012, came back to Pittsfield. Got a little bored real quickly, spending a lot of my extra money at Home Depot doing do-it-yourself projects, so I needed a hobby. So I started volunteering as, well, not volunteering, but substitute teaching Pittsfield Public Schools. Got on board at Reed and Pittsfield High initially, and then got a call one day to go to Morningside Elementary, and after that call I stayed for a year and a half working with the little kids. It was a lot of fun. My predecessor was retiring, or had left, and I knew she was retiring. The job came available, so I applied to the Director of Veteran Services and was selected in 2013 for that position, and did it up until about 2018. As you had mentioned, when Vinny Marinero was in there as the director of the Senior Center, he was retiring. I was on the board. The board decided to make me the interim. Then the board wanted to get rid of the interim title, and it was a tough decision for me to go from the veterans to the Senior Center, but unknown to a lot of people that 70% of the veterans in Berkshire County are over age 60. So they mixed. I saw a lot more veterans at the Senior Center than I did actually come to City Hall. So that's basically how I got here, and it's fun to be back, especially with the veterans, especially through this time of the year, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But it's a great time of the year to be the Director of Veteran Services.
So having served in the military, it probably provides a unique perspective to your role. And first, thanks for your service to our country. As you know, through my work on 4th of July parade stuff, veterans kind of hold a really special place in my heart. And I'm always looking for ways to make sure that we continue, because as we see our veterans population, or at least our active veterans who participate in organizations, we see that number declining. At what point in time does the volunteers that we see today, the great volunteers that we see today through the Veterans Coalition, go away, and who's going to lead the charge to make sure that the community always remembers? So with that unique perspective, does that change the experience that you bring?
I don't think it changes anything. It just, again, I have that perspective. I've walked the walk through all those years and trying to bring it back here to Pittsfield. But you hit the nail right on the head. I mean, the biggest problem right now is the dwindling numbers. I mean, they're aging. They're aging out. I mean, we just lost one of our key people for all the funeral details, actually passed away in December. And more of the actual funerals that the Legion, the VFW, the coalition's responding to are their own members. And that's really, really sad. And the younger generation is not really stepping up to get involved, because I think it's because the world has changed the way they look at veterans now. Part of this whole Vietnam Memorial Day coming up, Veterans Day, is because we did a poor job of welcoming our veterans home during Vietnam. Terrible job. And now President Nixon, President Trump wanted to remedy that. And they've done a lot of work to make sure that the veterans are taken care of, especially the Vietnam. And based on that, the future generations and the generations after Vietnam all benefited from that fix. And you can see even, as we were just discussing before we came on air, I mean, with the PACT Act, they increased the VA by 200,000 positions just from 2019 to 2025. And that was, again, to fix things that were broken throughout the system. It takes years and years and years for the what they call presumptive disease to become something that's automatically basically given credit to, that happened while you were in service, like Agent Orange, for example. Agent Orange was the actual chemical. The 13 original diseases are now up to 35 diseases that it's presumed that more likely it happened while your term in service than it did not. So people are getting the benefits from that, but that's why they had to add all those people to fix that. And the burn pits from West Asia, from the Persian Gulf War on, Afghanistan, the burn pits, all that stuff's coming to a head now, and they need people to process all of this. And that's one of the biggest changes to veteran services, of helping those people get the compensation and the help that they need. But also under the HERO Act passed by Governor Healy last year, she changed the whole definition of a veteran to begin with, so that we recognize. Whereas everything that we do in veteran services from Chapter 115, which is a low-income veteran program, you had to be a person with a discharge of anything but honorable or under honorable conditions. They changed that now to anything but a dishonorable. So that opened up 3 more categories that people are eligible for benefits and services, which again throws your budget way off, which we'll have to talk about here in the next few weeks as we come forward for the budget season. But again, people have earned this right to apply. I don't tell anybody they're entitled to anything. I tell people they're eligible to apply and see if it works for them. But we spend pretty close to $700,000-800,000 a year on hand-ups to veterans and surviving spouses of veterans who are finding it hard to make ends meet. So that's a lot that we do. Things change, but again, you see it through the state. The state's very well wrapped around taking care of veterans. You've got an organization called MVSOA, which is a Mass Veteran Service Officer Association, which is tied to EOVS, Executive Office of Veteran Services, which is finally, after many, many years, has become a secretary seat. Before that, I joked that they sat at the kitchen table during Thanksgiving. Now they're invited to the big table, because they used to be under Health and Human Services. Now they have their own directorate, which has changed an awful lot of the way benefits are distributed to veterans.
So you touched on Chapter 115, which is one way that we help. I know that when my dad passed away, that office was helpful for me because, as I've talked about a couple of times, my dad really didn't talk about his military
Correct.
service. So I was able to find that information. What other services does your department offer for veterans of the city?
Well, so as I mentioned too, helping people apply for benefits, compensation and other benefits, pensions and different things like that, burial benefits. We take care of the flags and markers during the cemetery for Memorial Day, and we'll talk about that here in a second too. But just anything to help veterans make that change over from going from the military world to the civilian world. And things have changed a lot. You go back to World War II, you finished fighting, you had 6-8 week trip on a boat to get home. When I left Afghanistan, 2 days later I was at my niece's wedding. Got on the airplane, getting missiles launched at us, and then 2 days later I'm at a wedding. That's really bizarre. Vietnam, again, was the first war where you could watch the war at your dinner table. It was on TV. Same day, same stuff. What those folks went through is terrible. But like I said, I think what we're coming up with a holiday here at the end of the month, it is recognized as a federal holiday on the 29th. And, they led the road for my generation and future generations of where we get help for and what's recognized. So we owe the Vietnam veterans quite a bit, and we have a couple opportunities to honor them this year.
Speaking of events, your office works closely with the Veterans Coalition,
Correct.
Which encompasses all of the veterans organizations within Pittsfield and Berkshire County.
Berkshire County, right.
And so it's the time of year where we're going to see events happen. I know when I first took office as a counselor, sure, I knew about Memorial Day and Veterans Day and 4th of July and Pearl Harbor Day, but there were other
Correct.
that as a lay person I didn't really know. and you've alluded to March 29th. So
Yep.
can we talk briefly about the event on March 29th, and then as we're going to that, we might as well just say spring's on its way,
Yep.
and head off to Memorial Day as
Sure.
well.
Well, so Vietnam Veterans Memorial Day is on March 29th at 10 a.m. at Park Square. There is a stone there recognizing the members of the military service who passed away in Vietnam. They're all marked there on the corner towards where Otto's is. That ceremony will take place again, like I said, at 10 o'clock that day. There'll be a good number of people there. That's very important to our community. And it's gotten better and better because since I took over back in 2013, like I said, President Trump made that a regular national holiday, a federal holiday on that day to mark that. So we've marked that almost every year. Try to keep it on a Saturday or a Sunday because of parking requirements. But this year it actually happens to fall on a Saturday, the 29th, the actual holiday. Because the 29th of 1973 was actually the last forces leaving Vietnam. And that's why that day is picked that way. The official ending of the war was April 30th, 1975, which again we'll be celebrating the 50th anniversary of the end of the war, but this year we're actually celebrating the 52nd anniversary of the last troops in Vietnam, and that was the 29th of March was when our last POWs, known POWs, were freed as well. So it's a big day for the Vietnam veterans.
We also, May 26th.
Yes, May 26th is a big day, Memorial Day, and I don't have to talk to you about what it takes to plan a parade. It's a lot of work, but I have a great team. The coalition's wonderful. You know, Tom Landry, John Harding, all of them, they're great folks helping set that up every year. But leading up to that, Massachusetts law requires that a flag be placed on the grave of every veteran prior to Memorial Day. So that's about 9,000 veterans in our three main cemeteries, Pittsfield, St. Joe, and Knesset, Israel. So part of that is, it's pretty simple when you go back to your roster from last year. I can go, okay, the likelihood of these people moving since the last year are still there. But it's the new folks being added that pass away every year to make sure that they get in the roster, get onto the list of where the flags need to go. And I want to share with your viewers right now a couple things. One, that what we get is the initial disposition of the remains of the veteran. And a lot of times lately it's cremation. So if I don't get initially that it's a direct burial at St. Joe, Section 12, grave number 5, I'm not going to know where they are. And like I said, a lot of people have initial disposition as cremation. For later gathering, when the family comes home, they're going to bury the veteran. The funeral home is not required to give secondary disposition, it's just initial. So if for some reason, you've had your loved one cremated waiting for the future event, and then you do bury them, let our office know. The last thing we want to do is miss a veteran's grave, but we're not going to know if the only disposition we had was that they were cremated. But we get a group together of probably anywhere between 50 and 100 volunteers. We start on the first Monday of May. This year we'll be meeting on April 15th at 10 o'clock at the Senior Center for anybody that's new that's interested in joining. Because every year I have people ask, when can I get involved after the fact? So this year I'm letting them know ahead of time on the 15th that we'll be meeting. And again, 10 o'clock at the Senior Center. We'll set you up for a day, couple hours, whatever it takes, because there's a core group of people that do it every year. But we always love to have additional people because, as you alluded to earlier, that core group is aging out.
And it's a really great experience. During COVID, thanks to Mayor Tyre, I was able to lead a group of volunteers to show up at the cemetery and put the flags in. It was a little chaotic, but we got the job done, and I think that was the beginning of a non-just military put the flags in. It started to change, and so if folks want to experience some real great respectful tradition, get a hold of Jim. And speaking of get a hold of Jim, we're almost running out of time, so really quickly, we alluded to the fact that your office was at the Senior Center and folks could stop in and see you, but how else can they get in touch with you?
Well, so we have veteran services at cityofpittsfield.org. Also, again, 413-499-9433. 499-9433 is the number. We're open from 8:30 to 4. You're welcome to stop in at the Senior Center. We've made it very simple. It's ground floor, no elevators required, handicapped accessible building for all ages. So people can just come right in the back door. It's marked Veteran Services, and like I said, we're there Monday through Friday.
We've almost reached the end of our time, so Jim, thanks for joining
Thank you for having
me
me.
today and being able to explain to folks. So I can tell you we have Vietnam Veterans Day, we have Memorial Day, we're going to have Korean War Veterans Day, we have 9/11, we have POW MIA Day, we have Veterans Day, and we have Pearl Harbor. Did I miss any?
No, you did good.
All right.
Yes.
I got it memorized. So folks, that's all the time we have. If you see a veteran, thank them for their service, and we thank you for tuning in, and we will catch you in 2 weeks for the next show.